All right, so today is the day of FIT21. It made it through the House, and of course, this changes, I think, the dynamics of where crypto is going. We're going to break it all down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor. Speaking of self-custody, Tangem is the way to go. You guys need to get into self-custody, get your coins off of centralized exchanges, and start moving into self-custody. It's a great exercise. It's also great for you understanding what's happening in crypto. Go to tangem.com. Tangem, your wallet, you of course can get into Slim as a bank card, Secure as a bank vault, store, buy, earn, and transfer or swap thousands of coins and tokens. So check it out. All you have to do is hit that Get Tangem button. It'll take you over to the 3-card set. That's the way to go. Get that as an extra backup. Use our code. It's going to give you a little bit of a discount. Let's get into a few clips, because after FIT21 went through really in, I think, a very unique fashion, we've got some clips here I think that'll make sense. Let's go to the first one.
Today, we have the opportunity to answer the calls of consumers, digital asset innovators, and the Biden administration.
On this day, the SEC and the CFTC still contradict each other in court about whether a digital asset like Ethereum should be treated as a security or a commodity.
So the courts won't have any questions. Mr. Gensler can't say, well, I'm not sure they did this, or they surely must have meant that. No.
We are the only G7 country that hasn't figured this out yet.
The EU, the UK, Hong Kong, and the list goes on, have established or are in the process of establishing a regulatory framework.
Through innovative design approaches, blockchains can be used in all kinds of applications, like tracking products through supply chains or facilitating the tokenization of financial assets.
I would argue, Mr. Speaker, that FIT21 is responsive to President Biden's own executive order and the Financial Stability Oversight Council report calling on Congress to enact a framework for digital assets that are not securities, and that's what we've done.
So there's a line list of everybody's support, and this, of course, right before the vote. We, of course, have to listen to Maxine Waters and her position on this FIT21 bill. Listen in.
The gentleman reserves, the gentlewoman is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Not fit for purpose act in what I have called a regulatory no man's land. The right of an investor to sue, gone. Protections against conflicts of interest, gone. The right to critical disclosures, gone. This is perhaps the worst, most harmful proposal I have seen in a long time. So I urge my colleagues to stand up. Don't be afraid of big crypto.
Don't be afraid of big crypto. It's just so huge here, Maxine. And I think the big opportunity here is the one that begins to make the Democrats look a little bit out of space when it comes to supporting business, innovation, and where the United States is going. The good thing is that we saw a lot of Democrats crossing the aisle and going into a much more bipartisan position. So definitely a good one. I want to go to this next clip because this gets into, of course, the continuation of many of the clown show participants. Listen in.
I now yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman.
Last week, we had Police Week. This week, the Republicans show us that they support crime in the suites.
Because the bad guys love crypto. Half of North Korea's nuclear program. Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda for fentanyl trafficking, and for those who buy and sell child pornography.
Get rich quick schemes.
This will cause havoc.
Causing a potential market crash and recession.
Child traffickers, drug dealers, and those who violate our sanctions.
That's enough to kill 8.6 billion people if you're counting.
The crypto bros have a lot of money. They make money by literally making money. Does it prohibit secret wallets, self-custody wallets? No. If it's successful in that,
yield 30 additional seconds.
The gentleman's recognized.
You have
for 30
to understand
seconds.
how important it is.
We should have made provisions to ban anonymous actors, to prevent you from saying, I want to move crypto from my account to yours. I would encourage you to go to your bank and try to deposit $10,000 in cash at your bank. Your bank will tell you, you have to tell me where that money came from. I'm going to take you back behind the counter. We're going to have to take your picture. We're going to have to get fingerprints.
So as you'll notice in that clip, mainly what they were going after was self-custody. This is one of the biggest, opportunities of crypto, but it's also one of the biggest challenges, I think, for governments. And this is what they were really kind of honing in on. Here's another clip that goes into this. This is Greg Casar, who is from Texas. Listen in.
Americans who invested in the SSP index received about a 61% return on their investment. But Americans who invested in one of the top 12 cryptocurrencies that existed during that 5-year period did not make money. On average, they lost about half of their money. 3 out of every 4 Bitcoin traders during that time period also lost money.
You look at just, right there, that's Bitcoin. Of course, you can't really deny where it's come from in terms of growth. So this doesn't necessarily, I think, put a position that is any different than they've been trying to make for quite some time. I think they're just now trying to grasp at straws versus what we're dealing with. Now, we still got to get through the Senate, so that's the biggest next step. There's a couple of other things that they talk about that are the worst investments of all time. Well, many of them were and have been some of the worst performing stocks in the S&P 500. And some of those, you're probably going to recognize many of the names. I mean, this is kind of crazy. We're looking at AES. You've got the FMC Corp, First Solar, we've seen Carnival, which we understand, Norwegian. I mean, these are all huge. There's Humana, Tesla, etc. These are all huge companies, all of which have up times, down times, just like any other market. So I don't think it makes any sense for that. I think this is still a control factor that much of the Democrats have been trying to push into play. He goes further into this around the amendment that they were trying to pass through. Listen to this clip.
My amendment focuses on one key area in the existing bill before us. Someone could crowdfund up to $75 million from everyday Americans. We would never allow that in the non-crypto finance world. So my amendment changes the exemption cap to $5 million, and I urge everyone to support it.
What we do in this act is provide certain disclosures for investors in digital assets, such as source code, token supply, governance mechanisms, and other aspects unique to crypto. What the gentleman from is rising to do is limit that aperture from $75 million to $5 million of those folks that can invest. No, you're not smart enough to invest your own money. I think that goes way too far. Restricting the opportunity for average everyday investors to get options like high wealth investors get today. When you make it to $5 million, it makes it impossible for you to actually scale up, especially with these inflationary times.
So what they're getting at right there, of course, is in the FIT bill is the whole idea of, everyday investors being able to go in and invest in these early stage startups. Now, $5 million, that's not going to do anything in terms of a startup. I think anybody that's out there understands growth of a business is going to take a lot more than that. This is all about restricting the small guy, keeping the big guys and the top 5%, top 1% in the driver's seat. I think this is a huge step in the right direction of being able to continue to do things like this in terms of innovation, because this is going to create more jobs, it's going to create more companies that want to start up in the United States. All of this is very positive. You start putting these kind of restrictive natures on this, and this has been around for quite some time. I mean, the Reg D, which is like $1 million, the SEC's already kind of gone this direction, which has held down the average investor from being able to invest in all. All that's about to change if this gets through the Senate. All right, so this next clip will go into a little bit of how well people looked at his amendment and whether or not they agreed with it. Take a look.
The gentleman's arguments against this exemption have nothing to do with the exemption, but have everything to do with opposition to the bill. We've constructed this provision with a lot of Democrat input and Republican input, and that's how we came to the number of $75 million. It is already a compromise. Maxine Waters is my co-sponsor on regulation crowdfunding, this very exemption.
I'd like to thank the gentleman from Texas for attempting this amendment.
The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
All right, pretty much no one was in support of that. The other thing that is starting to happen within DC is there seems to be a tide that is shifting. And I think this is the more important thing, because as we see a lot more innovation, a lot more technology that's going to be coming to the forefront, you're going to need to have a framework that addresses those advancements as they come. Take a look at this clip.
But I do need to especially recognize my colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle, particularly Mr. Nickel and Ms. Caraveo.
My state, New Jersey, ranks second nationwide in crypto ownership by proportion. For that to happen, we need rules of the road.
There is clearly a gap in oversight over our digital asset cash markets, and I believe the status quo is unacceptable. I am excited about the innovation these technologies have to offer.
They have been joined by Himes, Crockett, Torres, Soto, Gottheimer, Davis. This success would not be possible without their good faith efforts, and I thank them.
All right, so 71 Democrats across the aisle came into a bipartisan agreement with the Republicans, most of which, now sure, there was some mainstays that have been around there, but there's a lot more youth coming into this, especially from the Democratic side, which is a very good sign. So if you even look at just the history of this, you have to, of course, wonder, well, where did Pelosi fall? Well, here she is, just in. Nancy Pelosi voted in favor of the FIT21 bill. Again, I think she's somewhat pro-business, or maybe she understands the writing on the wall when it comes to votes, winning votes in a lot of what's going to be coming up in these elections. I want to go further into this because this gets into the whole situation of what we were dealing with today in Congress. And that is just, I won't say it in a bad way, but it's really just the aging out of many of these representatives that now we're starting to see a lot more of the youth come in, which is good. These are cycles that are normal. And I think this is something that is admittedly due. Take a look at this next clip.
The SEC are the experts. It is 90 years old, and it is 90 years old, respected all over the world. This SEC goes into the courts, and they fight tough battles. These battles are long. These battles are hard. We have an SEC that is expert. There is no way that the members of this Congress can allow that to happen. They will not accept any amendments. They don't think that the bill can be made better. And unfortunately, the bill is so bad, I don't think it can be made better either. This is unbelievable. How can this happen?
Gentlelady's time's expired.
On this vote, the yeas are 279 and the nays are 136. The bill is passed.
All right, so there you have it, guys. That's a big step in the right direction, and I think it only verifies what most likely will happen in the Senate. The other thing you have to remember, the Senate, there's been only a handful of pushback that we've seen. So now is going to be the first time we'll actually get a chance to see what the rest of the Democrats do in the Senate to get this bill through. And if they do, this will reform innovation, it'll reform finance, and it will really, I think, settle and level the playing field around potential investment opportunities in the future. So pretty big deal. Global economy built on chain. America will be at the forefront of its creation. It will be accessible to everyone. This came in from Jesse Pollack over at Coinbase. It will be accessible for everyone, everywhere, onwards to the Senate. I think this is going to go through. I don't think that Biden is going to come in and do any kind of veto on this either. So I think we're going to be perfect. Here's a clip from CNBC talking about that. Take a look.
Where do things stand right now? What happened?
Well, this should serve as a wake-up call. We had 2/3 of the House of Representatives vote in favor of clarity for crypto. You know, this was a vote that included 71 Democrats across the ideological spectrum. That should be the wake-up call.
I see a generational issue here where younger Democrats catch on to what's going on here. We've had Richie Torres and some of his colleagues, Wiley Nickel of North Carolina, Jim Himes of Connecticut, talk to their fellow Democratic caucus members saying this is a good bill. It's a bipartisan bill.
What are the odds of anything getting picked up in the Senate? What are the odds of this passing in the Senate?
Well, look, last week we passed a Congressional Review Act, repeal really on how you hold crypto. We got 21 Democrats in the House. Yesterday we got 71. Then it went to the Senate, and we had over 10 Democrats in the Senate, including Majority Leader Schumer, vote in favor of repealing a Biden administration rule on crypto. Don't count the Senate out. I think they have a huge opportunity here. I think you have a lot of interest with the bipartisan Senate.
Yeah, I think it certainly should have a chance in the Senate, as it had strong bipartisan support. We commented that even Nancy Pelosi voted for the bill yesterday. I think that should indicate that it is an important bill that should receive consideration and move through the Senate, and hopefully will get the president's support.
And finally, President Biden himself, he said affirmatively he will not veto this bill, that there's some things that he would do differently, and he hoped to work with the Senate on those. But that was very encouraging, and I think that will be a green light.
So there you have it, green light on through the Senate. This will, as I said, make things quite a bit different in terms of opportunities, and it is going to open up Wall Street. It is going to open up bank opportunities as well. We're going to see a different financial system in about 3 years. So get ready. This is going to be a wild ride. All right, so everybody remembers Prometheum. We did a couple of videos on it right here. This was Prometheum, which is what was considered as one of the only places to get digital asset securities. This, of course, was a hand-picked, I won't say shill, but that's pretty much what it was, by the SEC. There was some interesting movement here on this. Take a look at this next clip.
My amendment is pretty simple. It requires the Treasury Secretary, in consultation with the CFTC and the SEC, to complete a study and submit a report to Congress. Aaron Kaplan, the CEO of Prometheum, and its CCP partners entered into a joint agreement to develop a blockchain trading system where the Chinese partner took a 20% stake in Prometheum. In case anyone has any doubts about the CCP ties, Prometheum's Chinese partner's company was founded by a former senior CCP official.
Prometheum, while it was approved as a special purpose broker-dealer for digital assets, has not accomplished anything. It has no business.
I followed up on this letter in September 2023 hearing with the SEC's Gary Gensler, where he dodged my question, all the while Gary Gensler attacks American public companies who have tried to work with the SEC and come in and register.
Gentlelady from California, seek
To
recognition.
claim time in opposition, although I'm not opposed.
Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The opinion chair, the ayes have it.
As you can see within that, this call out for Prometheum, I pretty much think puts a nail in their coffin, and rightly so. I think this has been one of those that has been very questioned for quite some time, and I think finally it's come around, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right, we'll cover more of this. Of course, obviously we'll get to the Senate vote as that starts to transpire. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but I think it's within the next few weeks. But one thing to think about right now, guys, is still keeping the pressure on. This is not necessarily a win, so you still need to go out there, contact your representatives, get a hold of your senators, let them know your position. All it takes is a phone call or an email. That's it. That's all you got to do. Find yours in your own local area, and that will be a huge help. And I think this is the thing that kind of has separated the fact that we've seen such movement in a short period of time, is now they realize this does matter to a lot of the voters. If you guys are not in the Diamond Circle, get in now. It's a great place to get additional content. Follow me on X @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.